Using CGM for strategic glucose management in masters endurance athletes. A strategy for strategically induced glucose spikes will yield greater health and performance benefits than attempting to maintain a tight sedentary range. Performance imperative, fueling for work. Endurance performance is fundamentally about energy delivery. The primary goal during high intensity or long duration exercise is to prevent fatigue and maintain the power output. So we look at the need for spikes. During intense exertion, muscles consume glucose at an extraordinarily high rate. A strategically timed glucose spikes immediately before or during or after this activity ensures that glucose is available in the bloodstream for immediate use, sparing precious glycogen stores and delaying the onset of muscle fatigue. Attempting to keep glucose at a tight 70 to 140 milligram range during exercise would be catastrophic for performance. It could mean underfueling, leading to premature glucose depletion, bonking, drastically reducing power, and the inability to keep key sessions or races effectively. You can't maintain your race pace. So the reality is that athletes are different than normal people, and that masters athletes are even more different. Masters endurance athletes typically have exceptionally high insulin sensitivity. This means that glucose spikes occur. When they occur, body is extremely efficient at shuttling that glucose into the muscles cells for energy or storage, which is the glycogen replacement. That is the metabolic machine that you have built, not fat cells. Okay, so it's going to move the glycogen, the glucose right into the muscles and the liver to keep that energy demand there. A spike is rapidly cleared without the prolonged damaging high levels seen in insulin resistant individuals. This is a very important point. But purposeful fluctuations or dips below 70 milligrams are often the direct results of muscles greedily consuming glucose during or post workouts, where this body efficiently switches to fat burning. For athletes, anytime it goes a little bit lower during a fasted morning walk is not a dangerous hypoglycemic effect. It's a sign of metabolic efficiency. So when you look at the health context, defining health for an athlete is a little bit difficult because the ability to train effectively, recover, and adapt is what the athlete is about. Strategic glucose spike, with or without protein, immediately after hard work is one of the most effective ways to kickstart glycogen's resynthesis and muscle repair. This improves recovery, reduces injury risk, and allows for higher quality training over the long term. We can dial this into putting your carbs in touch with how much you're going to push that day. We also have to look at hormonal balance. Chronically low energy availability, often a risk in trying to maintain too tight, low range glucose windows, can lead to relative energy deficiency syndrome, which is something that happens in sports, harms bone health, immune function, and hormonal profile, right? You're not creating a catabolic state for growth, you're going the other way. Tight ranges are going to give you low energy availability. Even if you have the adequate carb uptake, you may not get the hormonal balance. Increased injury and illness consequent of relative energy deficiency and sports syndrome and poor recovery. This leads to eventually overtraining or overreaching, and that's what we'll see. That's what we're going to see in all the metrics. So strategic is the key word. So pre-workout, maybe you want to have a moderate spike with some easily digestible carbs that going to give you a little bit of fuel. If you don't like to do the fasting exercises, you might want to have a little bit of glucose during your prolonged exercise. But the key is post-workout recovery. Boom, you want to hit that to maximize glycogen resynthesis and muscle repair. You want that insulin bang. And then on rest days, you can aim for tighter range in your glucose. You don't really need the spikes. You can maybe dip one or two to promote metabolic flexibility, get the insulin activity going, bring that glucose in, because that's what you're trying to do on a recovery day is feed the system. Okay. So pre-workout, during exercise, if you think you're going to go that long, and then the post-workout is really the key. Okay. So there's a pre-workout glucose strategy if you choose. There's during the exercise if you choose. Most people over 60, what are they going to do? How hard are they going to push, right? And the recovery, post-workout recovery is where we really want to have the good spike, maybe two. And this is how you add it up with your stuff. And like they also said, chocolate milk is great. Recovery shake. So rest day is a glucose strategy. Maybe you can have tighter controls, maybe less spikes, right? Promotes flexibility, gets that thing going. It actually allows cellular recovery to happen. And then the strategic spikes are giving sufficient fuel for high intensity training, maintain their power throughout the sessions. They give you the optimal recovery, the ability to dial it in to your key training when you're going to do that. And then if you have a tight range, you can have, maybe you're going to have insufficient fuel for intense efforts, premature fatigue, which is something that we have to pay attention to, compromised recovery, incomplete, inability to complete the planned workouts, suboptimal race performance, basically this reduced energy deficit that reds that you cannot really recover. For a masters endurance athlete, the idea is not to mimic the steady glucose line of a sedentary person. You want to use strategically induced glucose spike to accelerate recovery and support intense metabolic demands of the body, the whole body. Not harmful due to the athlete's high insulin sensitivity and essentials are essential for achieving athletic goals. This is what we want to make sure we don't have this relative energy deficiency in sports. This is when you try to reduce overall carbs and food, but you are not handling your metabolic system the proper way. It can really bring you down and leads to overtraining. We want to improve our metabolic flexibility and our anabolic system, anabolic system, anabolic system. And you want good hormonal health by making sure that we have adequate spikes and adequate energy. So we can use the technology the right way by personalizing our activity, experiment with the timings, checking your spikes, and making sure that you stay within a certain percentage of glucose control. I think that's the way to do it. Use the strategic spikes, is what we're saying.